Did you know that Google personalizes many searches by city and Also Asked is the only tool to access live People Also Ask data at city level? Try for free at alsoasked.com.
Tired of SEO guesswork? Quadra's AI agent goes deeper to uncover high-impact optimizations and completes hours of SEO in minutes. Get started now.
I was going to say that SEO with Fat Joe is as peaceful as this, but then the birds are all having fights.
It's good to be here. I haven't been to one of these conferences in a while, so it's nice to see so many faces. So as mentioned, my name is Rasida and I head up CX at Crowd. So I lead tech SEO and CRO. Today we're going to be talking about quite a fun topic, which is calculating SEO opportunities through a technical lens. However, the logic is applicable to content SEO and PR. I do want to acknowledge there's been so much change in the industry, to say the least, with AI overviews and most recently Gemini 2.0 being released in the US. It has meant in some sectors that SEO market share has reduced. Therefore, there's been questions around, is there value in SEO? What does that look like commercially? So this is why I wanted to focus this talk on how we can simply calculate that through two technical streams. The reason, what actually inspired this talk was 2 years ago, I spoke at Brighton SEO, and it was on getting the yes in tech SEO implementation. And I had spoken to about 20 brands, conducted a bit of a survey to understand what is the biggest challenge in tech SEO. And the key finding was that 50% of those brands said return on investment had stopped their projects moving forward. It's a pretty substantial figure, and given the most recent changes, I believe that's even bigger now. The reason people said that was they had really low confidence in putting a number forward and also didn't actually know how to calculate it. This was happening across the two streams of tech SEO. My favorite, bugs. So those tiny things that pop up, whether it's a 404 or your sitemap isn't generating, and then it ends up sitting in a really long backlog and you're chasing and you're following up.
Sure.
Even though you say, you know what, it's just a tiny change, it's a low effort ticket, it can get lost depending on the business priorities and also the relationship you have with your product and dev team. And then the very famous question, can you put a number to it? What's the revenue risk? What's the opportunity size? And oftentimes it leaves people feeling a little bit confused and frustrated. And I'm sure looking around the room, everyone's probably been there and felt that. But I am happy to say that there is a way, and I will go through that today. So the main thing to begin with is your data. So make sure you have one source of truth. I know that's corporate lingo. Just make sure everyone's aligned on one set of metrics. So there's an agreement on what your revenue is and your traffic is. I've worked for a few big retailers and tech startups, and there can be so much confusion around what's actually happening on the site versus reality. So make sure there's alignment internally and externally. Then you want to move on to actually organizing your data. So starting with categorizing your landing pages. This is where segmentation is key. What I mean by that is landing pages defined by the entry point of your site. So if someone searches for a term and then enters the site, that's a landing page. Then what you want to be able to do is categorize your website versus its page types. So let's take e-com, for example. You have product landing pages, so category pages. Then you have product pages, so PDPs. Simply setting up a rule in your analytics platform or manually and saying /C equals category, /P equals product. Therefore, when you're looking at a problem or opportunity, you can understand trend lines versus the page type. Oftentimes, this is not set up and decisions are being made, quite significant ones, on a page level view. And you'll end up getting into quite messy situations if you don't have a segment ready. The next part is making sure revenue or leads is available by landing page. Again, these feel like very simple rules, but they're not applied in many cases where I've worked in different organizations. So again, making sure that you're understanding when someone enters your site, that through that user journey, what revenue is being generated, so then you can understand how to optimize performance and return. So, how do we quantify a technical fix? My favorite thing about bugs and technical fixes is it already exists on your website. So therefore, there is data attributed to that. So my suggestion here, and a lot of people don't do this, is build a report and get ahead of your data. So on the right-hand side, this is just taken from Google Blogs, you can see 4 different types of Google trend lines. And this can be indicative of what's actually happening on your website. And today we're focused on the bottom left, so technical issues or any changes in the algorithm. Typically with this, you can see a gradual decline, and then from that, performance remains steady, but that decline can go further if it's not picked up on. So make sure you're getting ahead of your data. This can be done in your, say, GA4 or Omniture, or you can simply do it in Looker. This will also enable you to have more impactful conversations with whoever you need to convince to prioritize that ticket. Okay, so now let's calculate revenue risks. We've got our data organized. Everyone's aligned on the right metrics. Everyone knows what revenue and traffic is. So let's take, for example, say the issue's happening on your PDPs, so your product page. What we first need to understand is how much revenue are those pages generating? So you can take the weekly revenue for that page type or just one URL, divide it by 7 to get your daily revenue. It's a very simple logic here. We're using this daily average versus a day-to-day because it's more volatile. Taking that daily revenue, which is say £10,000 a day, you look at the estimated days it takes to fix that problem. Say in this case, 14. So simply we're multiplying 14 by £10,000. That means the revenue at risk is £140,000. It's a punchy number, but it is in reality what could happen if that problem is not fixed. I want to be clear in saying here, I very intentionally use the word risk, not loss, because I'm not a fan of fear mongering, and also it's not happened, but there is potential. Also, what I'd like to add here is please don't go to your product and dev teams with these figures if you don't have a good relationship, because to get buy-in, you need to have good interpersonal relationships at work. So what I would suggest here is run them through the logic and saying, we want to help you prioritize. So what we've done is looked at how many days it takes you to fix an issue, and then looked at the revenue it's generated. And this is the number we've got to. You might be faced with the challenge or blocker, but it's an estimation. And what I would say here is, yes, exactly. By definition, it is a projection. With everything in terms of forecasting and projections, there is an element of the unknown. And I do find in SEO particularly, and I've been guilty of this in the past, we can get really fixated in saying, well, we can't actually quantify this exactly. But if you think about every other marketing channel, online and offline, they follow a very similar forecasting model. There's an element of unknown, there's an element of estimation. So what I would really say to people is confidently put that number forward, be happy to be challenged, but also pivot that person to the data and say, what part of the data are you challenging here? So you can work collaboratively and move forward. So now we know how to quantify risk across technical fixes. We're going to focus on new business cases. So think about when you're wanting to scale something quite large across your website and brand, and then you're told, okay, can you build a business case? Can you forecast what the return is? I do this oftentimes at Crowd. And one of the questions I get is, how can you do that for tech SEO? And the premise here is, with tech SEO, majority of the times, issues are linked to a URL. Therefore, that URL has data, whether it's search volume or revenue, traffic estimations, then that means it can be quantified. So that's the logic we're using today. How we do this is by marrying up your existing data points, so those commercial figures such as AOV, conversion rate, And then what you do is look at estimations. So in this case, search volume. Think about a time you wanted to go into a new market or develop a new product. This is where the estimations come in place so you understand reach and opportunity. So let's calculate the revenue opportunity. There will be a calculator link at the end, so you don't need to take pictures of the formulas, and then you can easily access it. So the first thing we want to understand is, what is the size of opportunity in estimated clicks? What you do is multiply your click-through rate with your total search volume of keywords. With your click-through rate here, you can use your industry benchmark or your own click-through rate from Search Console. Then you multiply that by the total search volume of keywords, so the opportunity you're looking to broaden out to. This will give you your estimated clicks, so the opportunity size. I would suggest for your click-through rate to use your own data, because that's always better than borrowed data. You have more control and context. How I would go about that is look at your generic click-through rate. So filter out your brand terms. You can use regex or just a really simple filtering system in Search Console, and then use that top line click-through rate. I would say you don't even have to download all of the rows. You can actually take the top line figure. I prefer to use this over click curves because I've often found that click curves can be quite outdated or actually not reflective of your business model and size, even if it's in the same sector. So use your own data. Another key factor here is the search volume total should be defined by what can actually be actioned. So for example, if you're only going live with 5 changes a year, but your opportunity is 5 million searches, it's not realistic. So you need to make sure it's in line with the headcount investment, product investment. And then when you put that case forward, it's more likely to go ahead because you've considered everything. So we've got the estimated clicks. We now need to understand the relationship between clicks and traffic, because 1 click does not equal to 1 sessions due to how it's measured. So what you can do here is take your existing monthly traffic. You can take the average over 12 months, divide that by your existing monthly clicks. Again, you can take an average here. That will give you your ratio. So it will tell you what 1 click equals to in 1 session. Using that ratio, we're going to multiply it by the estimated clicks. This will give us estimated traffic. So from this, we'll be able to understand the potential reach of this business case. Using the estimated traffic now, we're going to multiply it by conversion rate. For simplicity, I've used the existing conversion rate. But if you believe that this new market, new product, whatever you're looking into, there's a higher chance that the conversion rate will increase, you can change it. This is what will give you your projected transactions. Now, using that transaction estimation, similarly, we're going to multiply it by your existing average order value. Again, if the new product is higher in price point, naturally you'd increase the AOV here. And then you'd get your projected revenue. The great thing about forecasts are, and it's my favorite thing about forecasts and numbers, is they're objective. So I don't know if you've ever come across a point where someone just looked at you and said, I don't agree. And like, okay, great, thanks, but that's not useful. So what I would suggest here is really pinpoint the conversation back to the numbers. We've just been through so many calculations and metrics. So what I would suggest here, whichever stakeholder you're speaking with, is ask them, what do they not agree with? Is it the AOV? Is it the opportunity size and search volume? Is it the conversion rate? What is it exactly? Rather than just a really subjective opinion. And here I would also say confidently put a number forward. I know in SEO we tend to shy away from forecasts, but there is a good way to do it, and this will allow you to showcase the value properly as well. So running through all the calculations we've been through, we've understood how to get click estimation. So we've multiplied click-through rate by search volume. We've then looked at what is the relationship between traffic and clicks, so the ratio. Then we've looked at, okay, well, what does that then look like in the size of opportunity in traffic? By looking at the ratio times by estimated clicks. Then what we've done is taken that estimation in traffic and multiplied it by conversion rate, which would give you transactions. And then lastly, we've multiplied that by AOV to give you your revenue. This is the forecast. You can visit the calculator here in this QR code. It will take you to a form, but I promise it's quick, and then you can access it. I'll run you through this example. I mean, I should have used round numbers. I don't know why I made it more complicated, but here you can see the monthly traffic. So everything in green you input. So here you can see monthly traffic, 1.7 million a month. That equates to 3.9 million in clicks. It gives you the ratio, and then you use your annual figures, because I'm thinking about an annual forecast here. So click-through rate here is 1.5. The opportunity size is 6 million. Conversion rate is 1.2. AOV is $400. Then at the bottom, it will give you your output on what this business case will drive. So in this case, it's 90,000 in clicks, 39,000 in sessions, transactions is 470, and then your revenue figure, so the figure we're all looking for, is $188,000. And then after that, you have a figure to present confidently, and all that work will hopefully go to a good place and allow you to push the business case forward. And then finally, you're live on the site. I also wanted to mention that internally at Crowd, we have a tool called Voyager, because we are huge advocates of prediction and understanding forecasting. What this does is looks at 3 types of forecasting models. So the one being baseline. So if you do nothing, what happens to your performance? And then the second one is incremental traffic, which is what most people are after. And that looks at if there are changes in keywords, what does that mean in traffic, therefore then revenue? And then lastly, we also consider commercial KPIs such as conversion rate and AOV. There's quite a few of us here from Crowd. Does Crowd want to raise their hands in the room? There's quite a few of us. So if you want to say hello, please do. We've got new biz, we've got SEO, local SEO, tech, CRO, and also our Lux division. So please say hello. I know it's a networking event, can be a bit daunting, but come to us and have a chat. Lastly, before I close off, I wanted to say we've got a really cool migration case study that I'd recommend you read. We did this really complex project for a huge retailer across 20 markets and 16 languages. And it's just an interesting story. Dasha and my team wrote it, and she did a brilliant job. And we had like 50% uplift in revenue. So do have a read, and also let me know your opinions. But thank you so much for listening to me. And if you have any questions, please feel free to come up to me, and hopefully now you know how to calculate SEO opportunity through a technical lens. Thank you.
Demand Sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.